Start the recording. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a proposal for you. So we can take the next topic, or we can make one lesson just to go through functions, workflow construction, and maybe build some app to do some practice. So let's say half a lesson we will do some practice, and then we take a smaller topic, or we can take a new topic the full lesson. So it's up to you. Do you feel like you need some extra practice with functions, maybe flow control constructions? All right. So we can start with homework. Then we will see at functions, and maybe we will even take our ID code validator and create functional program of it, so we can work with functions a bit. And then after that, the second part, we can do a new topic. So speaking of homework, actually it wasn't really hard. I will open the datetime documentation because we need these directives to convert from one type to another. So let's get here. And for first part, we need to convert strings into datetime objects. So we can say, I'll do like that, dt1. So it's a datetime.strp time. Actually, you could mention that I didn't import datetime before started writing datetime. PyCharm did it automatically, but unfortunately, PyCharm doesn't do that with all libraries. So for example, if I start using math here somewhere, let's say I'll comment this out and start using math, sqrt, something like that, PyCharm won't import math automatically. So don't count on that at all. So for strp time, we need to provide two arguments. First argument is a string that we will be reading and converting to datetime object. And second argument is also a string, but it needs to be filled with those directives, so we can extract date from a string like that. So speaking of first, we have this month as a short name. So month with a short name is a %b. Then we have a space. Then we have a day, that will be a %d. Then we have a full year. Full year is a capital Y. Then space, and here we have this time in 12-hour format. So I showed you this last lesson as well. For 12-hour format, we have this %I instead of H. So capital I, colon, capital M for minutes. And we also need to add this AM PM part, so it's %small p, so %p. And let's print what we got, dt1. So yes, we did extract the date into a data. dt2, I used the same logic, so I'll copy all of that and just change the variable to sample2, and then I'll change these directives as well. So we have this explanation in a comment here also. So year, month, and then day. So it's 10th year, 12th month, and 22nd day. So let's start with M for minutes, colon, H for hours, then colon M for minutes. This time we have this 1420. That means that we are over 12-hour format. So we are using H. H is for 24 hours format. Then we put space and %small y for year, %small m for month, and %small d for day. So let's try printing it out. dt2. Second date is okay. Do the same thing for third. free sample free %a, comma %a for the full day. Take it from here. Then month written in text, full month name. So it's %large B, %capital B, slash %d for day, comma %capital Y, capital Y for the full year. We don't have any time here, so actually you can use either date time or date, because we don't have any time in this line, so we don't have to use oh sorry, we can't use date because we need to do a date time. But if you want to extract date, you can do it here, so you can do it like that. So dot date. Just because we don't have any time, maybe we don't want date time thing. We want to use just a date part of it. And for the last one, so it's sample 4. We have this %d dot %m dot %capital Y for the full year, space dash space, and now we do the same thing for hours, colon minutes, colon seconds. I think it's like that. Nope, seconds like that. Yes. So actually, if you make a timestamp of that, who can tell me what it will return? What number will it be? Huh? Yeah, not data type, but what is the result converting of that date into a timestamp? 1. It will be 1 because timestamp starts counting from 1st of January 1970. So if I actually, it's just to check you. So if I do it like that, timestamp, DT4 timestamp, it actually doesn't allow me to do so. Why is that? DT4. Yeah, timestamp. Why not? Invalid argument. Line 16. That's strange. Time date time. Let's see, datetime dot time stamp 84. Will it work like that? Nope. Interesting. I'll double check that. Strange, because it should return 1 actually. DT4. All right, let's do a couple of next ones. Was there some question? No. Writes a program to print yesterday's, today's, and tomorrow dates. So it's not hard as well. So we can make it a today. We know how to take that. So it's date time. We can actually take date today. Yesterday is today minus date time delta. Days equal 1. And I'll copy this line because tomorrow will be exactly the same, but we need to use a plus operator. So copy this line on top, change it for tomorrow, and then today plus time delta, and all we have to do is to print the result. So print yesterday, print today, and print tomorrow. So this one's okay. So write a program to convert given timestamp to day, month, year format. So we know we can convert timestamp by, let's say, I will create, let's say, result equals. So we can take any timestamp and convert it to date time object or date object, but we will be using date time like that. So it's date time from timestamp. So from timestamp does accept flow as an argument, so I can put this variable inside someday. If I print the result, I will get a regular timestamp look, not timestamp, sorry, date time. So what I need to do is convert it to a given format. So I'll use an strf time and write the directives here. So it's %d for day, %m for month, and %capital Y for the full year, and we will get the result like that. So it's 2002-2002. So from timestamp converts any float you provide to a valid date time. So the only exercise that made problems as far as I see for those who sent me this their solutions was the last one. Here I ask you to create a function, not just write some code. So write a function to subtract 2 weeks from timestamp and return a new timestamp. So basically what timestamp represents is a, let's say, date and time in a given format. So they pretty much number of seconds since 1st January 1970. And for us, we can do it in two different ways. First of all, you need to pay attention to these parts. So when function does have an input, this means that function must take an argument or a parameter. So if we create a function, let's say 2 weeks before, let's name it like that. So if function has an input, this means this function accepts this input as an argument. So we need to create a parameter here. Let's say it will be ts, short for timestamp. Inside here, we can go in two different ways. First of all, we can never convert to date time. So I can say that delta is equals to date time delta. No, all right, 14 days or 2 weeks you can put, so it's up to you. Days 14, and I can say that result will be equal ts minus delta dot total seconds. I did show you this last lesson, that time delta can be converted into total seconds. So doing it like so, and I'll try to call this function, I will put the same timestamp I had in the previous task. So we need to print it. I'm sorry, print. So if we do it like that, we will receive a different timestamp that actually represents a date. So I can do a date. Let's save it into a variable. So I'll say x is equal to 2 weeks before, and I will print datetime dot datetime from timestamp and provide x here. So if we look here, we see that we do have a different date. So we had 20th of February, and now we have 6, so exactly minus 14 days. So that works as well because timestamp is a float, and we can take any time delta and convert it to total amount of seconds by using this method, total seconds. So that's one way of doing this exercise. Second is by converting it into a datetime object, and working with it. It's a bit more complex, but let's say result is equal to datetime dot datetime from timestamp, and we will provide this timestamp into this result into this method. So now result is a datetime. So what we can say, we can return result minus delta, and we need to convert it back to timestamp. So what I need to do is to do it like that, and I will get exactly the same thing here. So what you need to remember that we spoke about functions before, and functions can or may, let's say may have an argument, and usually these arguments are called inputs if you have a task. So they say build a function that takes that input and has that output. So output is what function returns, and input is what function accepts as an argument. So something that goes into the function, and output something that goes out from the function. Hmm? See? Um, of course it didn't, because we didn't call the function here and didn't provide the argument. Look at my 2 weeks before. So you need to put some float inside and provide it to functions. Sorry? I took it from the previous lesson, from the previous task, sorry. The thing is, with function, so we have this 2 weeks before function here. And I will remind you that functions need to be called in order to work. So if I say, I will comment these two out, and if I'll say print 2 weeks before without any brackets, like that, what I will receive the function object. So I receive a message saying, yes, there, 2 weeks before is a function, and it is stored at that memory cell. So if you want this function to run, to do something, you always need to put brackets, because brackets is what makes function running. So if I leave empty brackets, I will get type error. The reason for that is that my function accepts one argument that must be a float, and we didn't provide it here, so we just put empty brackets, and it is saying that we have a missing one required optional positional argument, ts or timestamp. So if I add some float in here or integer, it doesn't matter, it will accept it. Any more questions? Yeah. Oh, it's nothing hard here. You just create a one day time delta and you can check it out. So saying previous date will be with minus, next date will be with plus. Right, any more questions? Okay. So let's have a look on our ID validator. Or actually, I will copy all of the code from our ID validator. Do you have it? You can copy my code if you want from GitHub from 004 flow control. ID code validator. And what I will do, I will actually create a new file. Let's do it in the same folder. Doesn't actually matter. Python. I will say ID validator functional, and we'll paste it here.
You can't copy the file.
You can if you want, but then you will have to rename it because it will be copied with the same name. And probably if it's copied in the same, I'm not sure, but if it's copied in the same folder, I think it will override. No, you can change name while copying, so it's okay. So speaking about ID code validator program we did before, I'll show you one resource. This resource is draw.io. And this resource allows you to create, actually I already have something here, but I will delete it. So this resource allows you to create block schemes for your needs or for your project. And block scheme is a good way to make a plan of your program, to create a plan of what you are planning to do. So speaking about that code, it's totally valid. It works fine without any problems, but we might have some problems reading this code because it's too complex. We have too many different things here, and it's all in one. So speaking about functions, functions are meant to store some parts of code that are used more than once. So it's pretty much similar to variables. We create variables for this information that we use more than once, and it's exactly the same with functions. So what can we do? We can represent our program as parts of, let's say, as parts of logical parts of what our program does at each part. So to start with, I will just do a start, say start. So I will create just a word start, copy it, and create the word end at the bottom. So like that, we can see the start and end of our program. So we're starting with something and we have end. It's pretty much how every program works. So you start it, you can do something inside, and then you can go out of the program or turn it off, and so on and so on. So doing it like that, we need to think about logical steps. So what's next? Okay, I start my program. So if we come back to our code, our program always started with this part. So asking person for his ID or her ID. So what we do here is we can create a separate block, let's say one like that, and say that we will ask for ID. So first thing we need to do is to ask person for ID. And after that, we can check it. So check if it works. I'm not doing a separate block for it. I will leave it like that because we will copy all of this code into a separate function. So it will be one function. But ideally, we could split this function too, but we won't be doing this. So ask for ID, and after that, we are going to a logical menu. So you can choose yourself which blocks you use for different parts of code, but I usually use these for if conditions. So if we have something here, so we can call this menu. So let's say after person enters the right ID, he can go to the menu. So other thing we can think about that during this part we have this if ID code is exit, so we can actually quit the program. So we can draw a line here. So I can create a line like that, or it's actually like that. So I will draw a line like that, and I will also add some text that say exit. Exit. Let's make it bigger too. So if person types exit, we are quitting the program. If he enters ID right, so we are going to menu. So if we look at that, we can say that these two blocks are two separate functions. So one function for menu, one function for asking ID and checking if it was entered correctly. So while in here, we have these several different things to do. So we have a, well, not task, but get gender. So we have this part. We also have, okay, we also have get date of birth. I'll put it, we'll do it like that for now. We also have a get region, and we have this validate thing, so we can validate our ID. And we also have what was there? Change ID. Well, actually, we don't need a separate block for change ID, but I will explain it now. So if we look at that, we see that we have these different actions here. So if we speak about these blocks of code, these are separate functions because each of them does its own job. So it does its own task. So looking at that scheme, we can see that, okay, now we are having a one function to ask ID, another function for menu, four functions for different parts of code. We also have a, let's do it here. So we also have an exit, so an option for exiting the program. I'm not writing numbers now. So for gender, we have this number 1. For date of birth, we have this number 2. For region, we have this number 3. For validation, we have this number 4. Let's do it like that. So what happens next? We need to decide what happens with these bits of code. So what am I doing? After getting a gender, I'm just sending our user, let's do it like, no. Okay, change it like that. So after that, we are coming back. I want to like this arrow. Okay, let's leave it like that, but it should be an arrow different way. And same thing here. And actually the same thing, same thing here. So we need to get back to menu. Let's try to do it from here somewhere. Back to menu. back to menu, and I'll take this as well. So back to menu, and that one will send you back to menu. So we can change colors of these lines or so on and so on. It's a good instrument, but what I want you to understand that we actually have another one here. You can use these block schemes in order to explain what your program will be doing. So you decompose your program into different small tasks. So each task and is represented as a separate block. And when you do so, you will be able to track your functions and plan your software because you see that, okay, I need to start a program. So next thing I need to ask for ID. Next thing I can either exit or enter ID correctly and go to menu. Then I have these four different functions that are executed and return me back to the menu. I have this exit feature and another one. I'm not sure where to put it here. I'm just doing a bit fast. That's why we have it like here. So another option is go back to ask for ID and ask for it again. So by drawing block schemes like that, you can actually represent pretty much any of your programs or any of your codes to understand what functions you need. The second rule is that if you see something inside the function that has the same code more than once, you can create a separate function for that piece of code as well. So speaking of our program, I will be starting at the very beginning. And another thing that most of the newcomers to programming do is taking the whole program like that, they take the whole program and put it inside one function, main. For example, they do a def main like that, and then take all of the codes and put it inside. And then run the function at the bottom. We don't have to do that because if your function is a full page of code, you don't need a function. Just leave a code inside the document. So you don't need a function to run all of your code because it's useless. So you're making an extra construction and you won't be actually repeating this function more and more. So what I offer here is uh, actually, let's create a variable. We'll say that ID code is equal to empty string. So we will be storing ID code in a string in ID code variable, and we will be doing that in a global scope. So our functions don't have to take this ID code and pass to each other while calling, but you can take a global function. So start with that, and then let's go through this diagram. So first things first, we need to create a function to ask for ID. Let's do it. Def ask for ID. So inside this function, I need to place code that repeatedly asks for ID until we do it correctly. So basically, what I mean by that, I actually need that part of code. So that part of code up to else including. So I will copy that up till the next while. So I will copy that and paste it inside here.
Copy and it would be left there or
I will copy. I will delete everything later. I will just copy so you can see the rest of the code together as well. But you can cut if you want. So we will be having this ID code variable. So this function, it will change this global variable. So every time person enters an ID code, we need to store it inside ID code variable that is global. So we need to declare it as global ID code. So now each time we input some ID here, and actually, let's leave it like that. Okay. So every time we enter some ID, our global ID code variable will get a new value. Then we check if it's lower, if it's not exit. Then we check if it's all integers. Then we check if the length is correct, and if everything's good. If there is an error with characters, we get this error, and continue returns us again to the beginning of the function. This one will give us an error about wrong entry and return us to function. So what else needs to do is to actually save this ID code. Let's do something. Let's do user ID instead the ID code. User ID. And I will do it like that here. User ID equals ID code. I do that.
Then the global should be user ID as well.
Yes. I'm just thinking, should we do it this way? Actually, no. Let's leave it ID code. And here I will leave ID code. And instead of ID code here, I will do user ID. So I will do some changes because I want them different names. I don't want to update global variables. So everything else, we had ID code in here. I will use this user ID because I'm using this local variable first of all. So someone enters ID, we store it locally, do all of the necessary checks, and only if everything is correct, we will save this user ID into ID code variable. So let's do it like that. Because rest of our code is using ID code, so I don't want to change everything in full code, so we will do it like that. And here I will leave a comment and say add function call here. Let's do some comment like that so I will be able to see it. So I'll do a comment like that so I will be able to see. So what I mean by this add function call? Any ideas? What do we need to add here later?
Function.
Yeah, and what this function should do? I'll open you that part. Yep. So we are asking for ID. We do all necessary checks here. So all this part that I have selected is used when person does something wrong or wants to exit. So this part is our function. But what happens after else? We need to call the menu function. We didn't create it yet, but we need to call it because if everything is correct here, we are coming back to menu. Not back, but we go into menu. So I will create this menu function first, and then I will add the call of this function here. So next thing I will do is def menu. I'm not using any arguments because we will be always taking this global ID code variable. So we don't need to do that. And inside menu, I will copy that. Pretty much everything I have in here, but I will delete everything that is inside. So I'm copying all of that up to the end. Yep. So I copy all of that. Go to my menu function, paste it here. So pretty much all of the code beginning from second while. And instead of writing my code inside these different if elif statements inside I will be putting pass for now, and we will change it with function calls later.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
Will we change user ID code here?
No. No, the reason we changed it inside first function, so I changed all the names, because I wanted this input to stay local. So inside the function. So pretty much person enters ID, we save it locally, we check it locally, and then if everything goes well, we only then change a global variable. So the reason I changed all the names in first function was to not change the global variable until everything is correct. Here in all of these bits, we are using global ID code. So we are considering that user entered everything correctly, ID code is valid, and we are passing it to menu only after that. So everything else will stay with ID code because it's our global variable that we have for storing ID codes. So for now, I will delete everything here. Just put pass, do the same for second, third, and fourth. That's why I copied code and did cut it, because I will still need parts of it. So we do a pass here. We also do a pass here. Uh, like that. Um, and we need to do some corrections here also. Deleted everything inside each of first four if-elifs. So if choice 1, if choice 2, if choice 3, I delete everything from there for now. Why is that? It's because it is our menu, and the task that menu function does is actually creating a menu and giving a user opportunity to interact with the program. Is there something wrong?
Yeah, I was copying first from my file, then I copied from your file.
And what now?
Oh, it's okay.
So it's okay. It's okay now.
Yeah, it will take some time.
Mm-hmm. Wait. Just let us know when you're done so we can continue. It's okay now. So let's look at these. So I deleted everything from first four parts of this if statement because we will be calling a function at this point. So we will create separate function for each of these tasks for gender, date of birth, region, validation. And we will call these functions inside our menu. So we will split functions into, split code into different functions. But before we do that, we need to check user choice 5 and 0. So if we want to exit, user choice 0 will work fine, because exit quits the whole Python program or execution of Python code. And if we do break here, we actually will close program too. Why is that? Because we don't have these two while cycles here now, and if we break these cycles, the menu function will stop working. So pretty much breaking this while cycle will make us quit the program. So what we need to do here, any ideas? 5 is for changing ID code, so giving an opportunity to enter a new one.
Don't remember what else was there. Continue or something.
We can call a function. So we can call an, how did we call it? Ask for ID function. So we can do it here, ask for ID, and let's try it out. I will actually run, will comment all of that code here, and I will call this main function at the very bottom. So I'll do it like that, main. Oh, menu. So I commented all of our old codes and left just these two functions. So if I run that, oh, okay, it's not menu, it's ask, yeah, just a sec, ask for ID, ask for ID. We will do that. I can enter ID correctly, 03160272, and it will say good and ask for ID again. The reason for that, is that we didn't enter this new function, menu function there. So let's do it. So instead of these comments I left in the first part, now when we have this menu function, we can call it. So let's call the menu function inside this else statement of ask for ID function. So the very last where I left the comment that I need to add a function or call a function, I will call menu from here. So now when I enter something wrong, we have a mistake. When I enter something too long, we still have a mistake. Too short, exactly the same thing. And now, only now when I put the right amount of numbers, I will get to menu. Of course, first, second, third, and fourth are not working. We have pass in there, but we can try it with changing ID. So I will do a 5, change ID, enter ID. Okay, I will enter another one. And after that, I'll try to exit. So I did change ID. I'll try to exit. Everything works fine. So we can continue. Being honest, I find that as not the best way to do so, because we need to understand that when we have this while true cycle and when we run this function from inside, this function is still running. So basically we run another function, but this function didn't stop running. The only reason we don't get menu second time, it's because we have exit here. So exit quits the application. It doesn't check if there's any running functions there. So better way to do so is to break the cycle inside here. So we do leave this break statement inside, and we will write this this ask ID function call here in while true. So I will leave it here like that. So when while true cycle is shot by using break or broken, we will run ask for ID. By this way of solving that, we will first break the cycle, then call for the function and stop the menu function from existing. Do you understand what I mean or no? So I'll try to draw then, because this thing is... So how our program works, I will check these all out, check that out and see. So we have this while true thing for entering ID. So we start our program with that because we need to run it. If everything is correct, we run the menu function. So if ID is entered correctly, this menu function starts running. So let's say this is a menu function that started running, and I will say like that. I will say menu 1. Why 1? Because it's the first time we run this function. So we have this in our memory. So function started working. If I have this ask for ID here, not like that, so I'll leave it. Let's do it like that. I will comment out break, say ask for ID, and comment that out as well. So instead of break, I'm running the function from here. So what happens? I'm running this enter ID function. So I will come back here for now. So did my menu function stop working? No, it didn't, because it does have a while cycle that actually can do another round and another round and another round. So by calling this function here, I'm creating a new, so I'm running this ask for ID function again, and at the end, this function runs a menu function once again. So by that time, we left menu 1 for another function, but we didn't finish with menu 1. And what happens is after changing ID, you get another instance of menu 1 inside your memory, menu, but it's menu 2 because we started it again. And the first one is still in cycle. So we don't see it. We think that nothing happened. Okay, menu finished working, but actually it didn't, because we still have this while cycle inside, and after changing ID we are creating a second menu. So function, the previous function didn't stop, and we have another instance of the same function, and if I change ID it will be same thing again. So I'll get a third, a fourth, and fifth. And what you need to understand, that all of these functions, they do exist inside the program, and they are stored somewhere in the memory. And by not closing these functions but creating new ones, at some point we can cause memory to fill up, because we have a lot of still running functions. So every time this function runs, it calls a new instance of menu, and it doesn't actually check if there's any open menu or there's not. The reason we don't see that, because we use this exit operator, and exit operator basically turns off the program. So everything that was running, it will stop. But if I use break here, for example, just to quit the while cycle and exit the program like that, because I have only one while cycle, I can use break here as well. And if I do it like that, we might actually see the problem. So I entered ID, I put 5 to change ID, so it's saying, okay, I want another one. And now when I exit with break, I say 0. What happened? I broke the cycle, but I went back for this enter ID function, because this enter ID, actually, I'm not sure, menu, yep. So I went back to this function, and the reason for that is that we have this same mistake inside ask for ID function, and it is here. So basically what happens here, we do the same thing. We still have this while cycle, and we didn't turn it off. So after we finished with menu using break, menu stopped existing, but enter ID still runs, because we started this menu function and never finished this cycle. So here the same thing again. So what we need to do is to break cycle here and run menu after we break the cycle. So as soon as person enters something wrong, we will be running here all the time, and now we can't use break. Why we can't use break? Because if someone enters exit, we will start this menu function. So instead of break, we can use exit. So by using exit, we quit the program at that point.
prefer having the code the previous version.
But you need to learn to use functional. So it's pretty much same code, but it's you need to understand these dependencies of break and menu. So what you need to understand, I'm even closing it like that. So while true keeps running all the time, and before you call some other function from within while true, you actually need to stop it. And the way we do this is by saying break here when everything is correct. By running this break line, we are breaking this cycle. So this cycle is broken. It's not working anymore. But we need to continue running code inside our function. And the last thing inside the function is a call of a menu.
So if this ask for ID is stopped, then we are calling the menu.
Well, we are calling the menu, and that's the last thing we have in this call for ID. So if I run it again, like that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, change ID, like that, push exit. Now I don't have this ask for ID one more time. I still have the menu, but that's a different reason. Remember,
we shouldn't have that, right?
We shouldn't. We will change the menu part.
We shouldn't have that.
In the else, it was else case both times. Double menu is because of that. I changed it for break, so we will come back to it. But before I showed you before. But
I mean, there should be one case where this menu shouldn't come.
Yep.
Which case is that?
The else case. No. The exit case. The exit case. So we will exit. So let's do it like that. We say exit, and we will quit the program. So menu doesn't come. Exit case. So if we entered ID and everything is correct, we are going to break the while cycle and run the menu.
Okay.
So exactly the same thing happens here. So if I break program like that, I will just quit the cycle, and actually we can leave break, but this bit. So if I run function here, I never break this cycle, and that's why I get menu second time. So I push quit and I get second time menu second. Why? Because first menu, the one I showed here, the first instance of menu was never closed. So by running this code like that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, I'm starting one instance of menu. By pushing 5, I run this function, but we never closed the menu function. It still runs. So by pushing 5, I'm calling this function again. Let's say I put another ID here. Yep. So I just started the second instance of menu, but first was never closed. So both functions are existing at the same time. By pushing 0, calling this break keyword, I'm closing second instance of menu, while the first was still open, and by pushing 0 again, I will quit the program because I quit the first instance. So in order to deal with that, I'll do the same thing as in previous. I will break cycle inside 5, and I will run this function outside of while cycle. So by doing that, we break cycle, then code needs to execute whatever is left, and we have this function call. So this will be working. We will be closing each instance of menu right before we go to a new function. But here, I need to quit the program, because otherwise I will get here to that piece of code. So here I still need to have exit or quit or something like that.
Then why did we change it previously? Like quit was there anyway.
No, you can. I showed you the differences, so you can see the examples. What happens actually. So by doing it like that, you won't have any not closed instances of functions running. So that's the only thing actually you need to think about, because Python is not about memory management. But if you do a lot of things that exist in your memory, you might get to problems with memory at some point. So Python deals with memory itself, but you need to understand that some of these loops can actually be hard to find. So what I advise, every time you have this while loop, if this while loop, result of this code inside while loop, must send you to a different function, think about, should I stop this loop and stop this function before going to new one? And you can do this by breaking the cycle and then running the function.
So after we are breaking the cycle, it goes to the ask for ID, right? But if we exit, it doesn't go to
Yeah, exit stops program at that point where exit was quit does the same.
Okay. So we can use the break for to stop the if else, like
To stop for or to stop while. So break is stopping cycles. If else is not a cycle. Yep.
Okay. This ask for ID is working within the function, not within the while.
Yep. So we go outside of while. I will do it like that.
Okay.
So we stop while by using break, and only then we call ask for ID. In that case, ask for ID is the last line of code inside menu, and then menu after executing this ask for ID will not exist anymore.
Then I wrote the previous menu in the wrong.
You mean previous, before we started doing with functions?
No. The first, like, ask for ID. Ask for ID function. I wrote the menu within the while, but I should write it
outside. That's why we use break to stop while and then run function, and then menu can stop existing. Okay. Well, with the rest of the code, it's quite easy. I will do it here, somewhere here. So def get gender, like that. One function for getting gender. Def get gender. I can do it. Where did I have this code? I will uncomment everything I have here so I can easily copy it. So in order to get gender, I need this code inside the function, inside the if statement one, so I can just copy it from here. So copy, user choice one, copy, and we will paste it in this get gender function. So now we have a separate get gender function that takes global variable ID code, checks if it's a male or female, and prints the corresponding message. So I'm only copying all of the code inside. I'm not changing anything here. So just like that. So now when we have this get gender function, we can run this function here inside the menu. So get gender, and we also can put continue here. Why am I putting continue? In case, well, it's not necessary in our case, but in case I have some other code after this if elif statements, I don't want to run it. So if user took gender, I push continue, and we go to the next round of while cycle. Get gender function.
The continue should be like if the user presses 1, he sees his gender, but the code still should run, like should bring like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The reason we don't put breaks here is that get gender is a function without any cycles. So when we call it, this function will execute everything once, and then it will go back to the same menu function. And we use continue to just go to the next round. So print menu again.
Why not pass? What does pass do?
pass doesn't do anything, so just ignore. So for example, reason I'm using continue here is because I don't, no, for example I have some code here. Let's do it like that. I'll show you. Hello world. So I have this code inside cycle, for example. So this one's outside while, this is still inside while. So if I run this program now, let's say I will enter some correct ID and say get gender 1. What I get, you are male. Okay, so I don't get this hello world thing. So I do it again. I don't get this hello world thing. If we check output, we don't get it. So if I stop, delete this continue, and run it again. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and run gender, I will be getting this hello world every time. And why is this happening? Because we run this function, it does whatever it does, it checks the gender, and then this if else statement is finished. So we finished with that, we're not checking any other conditions, but we have some code after it. So we have some code after this if statement. And if we don't want it to run, we need to escape that by adding continue here. So what continue does is stops this round of the cycle and starts cycle again, or takes the next round if we speak about for cycle, for example. So get gender, we print gender, we see continue, we stop executing code inside this while, and we go back to the beginning straight away. So continue returns you to the next round of cycle, wherever it is. So pretty much same with the rest. So we did get gender. I will go here, take this part from user choice 2. So pretty much everything inside. Just everything. I don't need to change anything here. So I will copy it here and say, yeah, for example. So I'll do a, let's use def get birthday. I'll call it get. So I will paste code inside there. And what I need to do is to add this get birthday to our menu. So I will do exactly the same thing. User choice 2, get birthday, continue. So pretty much all of the rest will go on that pattern. So you take user choice 3, you take user choice 3. I didn't finish it, but it still will work with my, and create something like def get region like that, and then call this get region inside user menu 3, get region, continue, and do the same for validation. So basically I copy all of that code just in separate functions. I will take this bit. So all of our checks, copy it to just all of the if else if body, and say def validate, put everything inside, and use validate and continue inside the fourth input. And now I can delete everything I had from the previous version. So what we have now, we have a program with separate functions, and each function does its own job. So we have a separate menu that asks user choice and opens the required function by user choice. We have this get gender separately, we have this get birthday separately, and so on and so on. So our program now has separate functions.
How did you call the fourth one?
Fourth, validate.
And that's all right, the foods.
We don't have it was for changing ID, so we are running. We're just using break and calling it here. Ask for ID.
Okay.
So
and we had else there, like choice.
Else choices after out of range is just in case somebody enters something we don't have in this menu. So for example, A or B or whatever. So we give a message that choice is out of range and please choose one more time. So what I also would like to do, but I'm not doing it now, you can consider taking that code into a separate function. Why is that? Because we are repeating the same thing here. So I'm creating a result variable using for cycle to count. Then I'm checking if the remainder divided by 11. So you can actually put this bit into separate function and call function here and another time after a leaf. So you can actually do that in the separate function too. Because a good idea while planning functions is that one function does one job. That's the first rule. Second rule, for example, you have one function that counts, then you should have another function that brings the result, not all in the same function, ideally, of course. Second thing, if you have some pieces of code that is repeated, you better take this piece of code and outside and into some different function. So for example, I can actually help you with that show. So I can do def validation, let's call it validation process. And it will accept just some checksum. So I will be doing result equals 0 for, let's say, I in range 10. Result plus equals int id code. I'm pretty much doing the same function I times, and here I will use just check I. So I changed index to I, so it's shorter, and I don't use check 1 or check 2 because check will be an argument now. So check will be an argument, and we will return remainder of result divided by 11. So pretty much it's either the last number of ID code or it's 10, and we can check second time.
This is the second time we're creating the new function.
No, we are using the same function, but first, when we run it first time, we will provide it with check 1. And when we use it second time, we will provide it with check 2. So what I did here, I don't actually need that anymore. So I'm deleting that. Now I don't need this result because I have it in a separate function. Now I don't check this validation, don't check this result. I do validation process check 1. So what I do, I actually deleted all of this code. I call the validation process functions, provide it with check 1. It does all the counting and returns me the result. That is either 10 or last number of ID code, or it's not valid. So we say if everything good, ID is valid. Else we can actually, I'll do the same validation process equals to 10. Leaf validation process equals to 10. We do what? We do exactly the same thing we did before. So I'm deleting result. I'm deleting this for cycle. I don't need it anymore. I still have this ID, this result. Oh, mark is here. So instead of that, I will just use check2. All right.
No.
Well, we swapped everything that we did before with just one line of code like that, with one function. So if validation process check1, so I give check1, check1 goes here. I'll do all the counting, get this result, remainder of result divided by 11, and now I can compare these two here because all of this function call will return me just one integer, the one that we stored in result before. But now I don't need this result variable in here. So actually, let's check. Maybe I did some mistakes. 388 0316 0272 for validation. Let's see. Yeah, ID is valid too, so it's still working. So what I did, I just took some part of code that was repeating into a separate function.
And why would you do the same, for example, get birthday function?
We're here.
Yeah.
What do we repeat here?
No, like all the time taking the ID code and checking it.
Yeah, but we do a separate if statement. How can we take it in a separate one? So we can, yeah, of course, we can make a function that takes ID code itself, and we provide it with these numbers, and it returns us true or false, and we can use it inside if statement. But we will still have four if statements. So reason I put that code separately, because this code counts the result by the same logic, but only using different numbers. Here, this function is fine. Which one? The gender, not gender, but birth year. So this one's fine because we need to create different outputs, so you can actually do so. But yeah, if you want, you can simplify this function as well by creating a separate one for parts of code. Right, let's make a break. I see that